I came home from base 2 days early for Thanksgiving, and my 6-year-old daughter was asleep on the garage floor in her pink coat, holding her stuffed rabbit, with the heat turned off and the whole house dark. The kitchen table had one note on it, my husband's handwriting. "We took everyone to Aspen. She was never family, Dana. Deal with her." She was never family? My daughter, 6 years old, alone in a cold house for, I would find out later, 19 hours. I picked Lily up off that concrete floor, and she woke up halfway, the way exhausted children do, and she didn't cry. That was the part that broke something loose in me. She didn't cry. She patted my uniform collar with one freezing little hand, like she was checking I was real, and she said, "Mommy, I waited quiet like Paul said." I waited quiet like Paul said. I carried her inside, turned the heat to 74, wrapped her in the comforter off my own bed, and made her hot chocolate with my hands shaking so hard I dropped the first mug. And while it warmed, my daughter reached into her coat pocket and held something out to me, a crumpled envelope, folded into quarters, soft from being gripped. "Grandma Carol dropped this when they were packing. It has your name on it. I kept it quiet, too." I looked at the envelope, my name, Dana, in Carol Merritt's careful, old-fashioned hand, and below it, underlined twice, 3 words that made no sense yet. "Before you sign." I didn't open it right then. I want to be honest about the order of things, because the order matters. First, I fed my child. First, I sat with her wrapped in a comforter while she ate grilled cheese and told me, in the flat little voice of a 6-year-old reporting facts, about the last 2 days. How the suitcases came out Tuesday, how Paul told her the trip was for family only, how Grandma Carol argued with Paul in the kitchen. Lily couldn't hear the words, just that Grandma was upset, and how, while everyone carried bags to the cars, Grandma had pressed the envelope into Lily's coat pocket, zipped it, and whispered, "Give this to your mama the second she walks in. Nobody else. You're my brave girl." Nobody else. You're my brave girl. Whatever Carol Merritt was, and I had 5 years of evidence that she was a cold, watchful, and complicated woman who had never once hugged my daughter without checking who was looking, she had done that. She had argued. She had chosen a side in secret at the last second, in the only way available to a 66-year-old woman who was financially and completely under her son's thumb. I put Lily to bed in my bed. I sat in the kitchen with the note that said she was never family on one side of the table, and the envelope that said "Before you sign" on the other. And then I opened it. Inside were 3 things. A house key I didn't recognize, small and old-fashioned on a paper tag. A business card, Grant Ellison ATY, attorney at law, estates and trusts, with a handwritten cell number on the back, and a single sheet of Carol's stationery, dated 11 days earlier, that I have since read perhaps 200 times and can recite with my eyes closed. "Dana, if you are reading this, my son has done the thing I begged him not to do, and he has done it while you were away, because that is how cowards schedule things. Whatever papers Paul puts in front of you when you get home, the refinance, the estate simplification, whatever pretty name he gives it, do not sign. Call Grant first. Tell him I sent you. Tell him it's about the second will. Paul doesn't know I made it. He's about to find out, and when he does, everything he has planned falls apart, and he knows it. That is the whole reason for all of it. The key opens my cedar desk at the lake house, bottom drawer. Go before he does." I sat in my kitchen at 1 in the morning with my daughter asleep upstairs and my husband's family eating room service in Aspen, and I read that letter 3 times, and I understood 2 things with total clarity. The first, leaving Lily behind wasn't cruelty for its own sake. It was a move. Everything Paul did was a move. He had needed me to come home to a crisis, a freezing, abandoned child, a monstrous note, because a woman drowning in rage and rescue doesn't read fine print. The papers would come next, slid across this very table, wrapped in some apology, some explanation, some deadline. Sign here and let's put this ugliness behind us. The second, December 1st, was 9 days. I looked at the key, I looked at my sleeping house, and I did what they never expect the emotional wife to do. I got a pen, opened my notebook, and started a timeline. Because my mother didn't raise a victim, the Army didn't train one, and Paul Merritt had just made the single worst logistical error of his careful life. He left the witness with me. The first call I made at 7 the next morning was not to Grant Ellison. It was to my sister-in-arms, Captain Reese Delgado, 2 streets over on base, who answered on the second ring the way soldiers do, and had Lily eating pancakes in her kitchen by 7:40. I was not taking my daughter on this mission, and I was not leaving her anywhere Paul's family could reach. Nobody takes her but you, I told Reese. Not her stepfather, not a grandmother, not anybody with the last name Merritt. Reese looked at me for a moment, then at Lily's coat, then back. How much trouble are you in, Major? None, I said. I'm the trouble. The second call was Grant Ellison's cell. He picked up on the 4th ring, and when I said the words, Carol sent me, it's about the second will, there was a silence so long I checked the screen. Then, where are you right now? My kitchen. Is your husband home? Aspen, until Sunday. Then we have until Sunday, Grant Ellison said. Can you be at my office by 9? And Mrs. Merritt, Dana, do not call the lake house caretaker. Do not tell anyone where you're going. And whatever you do, do not sign anything that arrives by courier. He'll try the courier version first. He was right, by the way. At 8:15, while I was pulling out of the driveway, a FedEx envelope arrived at my door. Refinance documents, flagged, sign here, with a sticky note in Paul's handwriting. Babe, bank needs these back by the 1st. Don't worry about the legal talk. It's just the estate cleanup we discussed. Sorry about the misunderstanding with Lily. We'll talk Sunday. Love you. Sorry about the misunderstanding with Lily. The misunderstanding, 19 hours on a garage floor. I photographed every page and signed nothing. Grant Ellison's office smelled like old paper and older coffee, and he laid it out for me the way you'd brief a soldier. No cushioning, no drama, just the terrain. Carol Merritt came to me 11 days ago, alone, by bus, if you can believe it, so no one would see her car here. She wanted a new will drawn, replacing the one Paul's attorney holds, the one Paul believes is current. He folded his hands. In the old will, everything passes to Paul. The house you live in, which you may not know, is titled to Carol, not to your husband. I'm sorry, what? Your home belongs to your mother-in-law, Major. Paul has been living in it, and now you both have, under an arrangement he's told everyone is ownership. It is not. Carol also holds the lake house, the shore lots her late husband bought in the 70s, which a resort group has been circling for 2 years, and a portfolio that would surprise you. Paul's estate simplification plan requires 2 signatures, his mother's, to move the assets into a structure he controls, and yours. For me? Because in Carol's old will, there was one exception, a trust provision for descendants residing in the family home. Grant took off his glasses. Your daughter has resided in that home for 4 years, Dana. Under the old will's language, Lily has a colorable claim as a beneficiary. Paul's attorney flagged it in September. The refinance you were just couriered contains on page 11 a waiver, you signing away any claim on your own behalf and on behalf of your minor child. The room was very quiet.
That's why she was never family, I said slowly. It's not cruelty. It's a legal position. He's been building a record that Lily doesn't belong. The trip for family only, the note in his own handwriting. I stopped. The note in his own handwriting. She was never family, Dana. Grant Ellison saw me get there, and for the first time that morning, the old lawyer smiled. Major, he said, in 30 years of estates work, I have watched many men try to disinherit a child quietly. I have never, not once, seen one put the intent in writing, sign it with a pet name, and leave it on a kitchen table next to the evidence of child endangerment. He slid a legal pad toward me. Now, Carol's new will replaces all of it. The bulk to Lily's trust, lifetime rights to Carol, and precisely nothing requiring your signature or your husband's approval. It's executed, it's valid, but there's a problem, and it's why Carol sent you the key instead of a courier. The will is at the lake house. The original is in her cedar desk. I hold an unsigned copy. She was too frightened to leave the executed original with me. She believed Paul had someone watching my office, and having met your husband twice, I no longer think she was paranoid. He looked at the clock. Paul's attorney requested a records meeting on Monday. If that original doesn't surface before your husband realizes it exists, it will simply never surface at all. Lake houses have fireplaces. I stood up and took the key out of my pocket. How far is the lake house? 3 hours north. Grant was already reaching for his coat. And Dana, Carol's letter said go before he does. This morning, the caretaker didn't answer my call. That's never happened in 15 years. I drove north with Grant Ellison's unsigned copy of the will on the passenger seat, and my phone forwarding everything to a folder I'd named, with a soldier's poetry, Evidence. 3 hours of gray highway, and I used every one of them, because rage is fuel if you burn it right. Bluetooth, hands-free, one call after another, building my file the way I'd build a convoy route. Call 1, the pediatrician's after-hours line, an exam for Lily that afternoon, documented, mild dehydration, cold exposure, no lasting harm, thank God, but on the record, dated with my arrival time and the thermostat reading in the chart. Charts, not stories. Call 2, our home security company. I requested the full event log for the past week, every door, every code, every timestamp. The system emailed it in 11 minutes. It showed the front door armed Wednesday at 2:41 p.m., the family caravan leaving for Aspen, and no exterior door opening again until my key at 9:57 Thursday night, 19 hours and 16 minutes. The log also showed something else, something I sat with for a long mile. The garage interior door had been locked from the house side at 2:39. 2 minutes before they armed the alarm and drove away. He hadn't forgotten her in the garage. He had put her there. Call 3, Reese. Lily was fine. Lily was watching cartoons. Lily had asked once if Paul was going to be at Christmas, and Reese, God bless her, had answered, "That's grown-up logistics, baby girl," which is the correct answer to almost everything. Call 4, and this one I rehearsed for 10 miles before dialing, was to a number Grant had given me from Carol's file, Dana Merritt's cell. She answered on the first ring, whispering. I could hear resort noise behind her, a television, Paul's laugh somewhere in it. Is Lily warm? No, hello. That was her first question, and I will weigh Dana Merritt's whole complicated soul on the scale of that question for the rest of my life. She's warm. She's safe. She gave me the envelope. A breath went out of the woman, long and shaking. Brave girl. I told her she was my brave girl.
"Carol, I'm driving to the lake house right now. I have the key, but Grant can't reach the caretaker, and I need to know what I'm walking into." Silence. Resort noise. Then, so quietly, "Dana, listen to me. Yesterday at breakfast, Paul took a call and left the table. When he came back, he was pleasant. He is never pleasant. And this morning he told everyone he has to fly back Saturday, a day early, for a work thing." Her voice dropped further. "Paul hasn't had a work thing on Saturday in 6 years. He knows something exists. I don't think he knows what or where, but he's coming home to look. Then I'll be done before Saturday." Bottom drawer, the cedar desk. The drawer sticks. You have to lift it as you pull. "Dana," she stopped, and when she spoke again, her voice had changed, had dropped its whisper and gone flat and clear, and for one moment I heard the woman she must have been 40 years ago. "In that drawer, under the will, there is a second folder. Take that too. I didn't tell Grant about it. It's why my son is the way he is, and it's why he can never, ever be allowed to control this family's money." The line went quiet. "Carol, what's in the folder?" "The reason his father changed the locks in 1994, she said. "Take both. Go." She hung up. The lake house sat at the end of a gravel road with the water flat and pewter behind it, and the caretaker's truck was in the drive with its hood cold. I checked, I'm trained to check, and the caretaker himself, a leathery old man named Walt, was up a ladder cleaning gutters with his phone visible in his shirt pocket, turned off. "Battery," Walt said, unbothered, when I introduced myself. "Mrs. Merritt said you might come, said give you no trouble and ask no questions." He looked at me a long second. "She also said if her son shows up, I never saw you. That right?" "That's right." "Huh." He went back to his gutter. "Always liked her better." The cedar desk stood in the back study, smelling of 60 years of summers. The bottom drawer stuck exactly as promised. I lifted and pulled. The will was there, thick, blue-backed, executed and witnessed, Carol's signature firm on every page. I photographed it where it lay before I touched it, every page time-stamped, because chain of custody is a love language too. And beneath it, exactly as she'd said, was a plain manila folder, soft with age, unlabeled except for one word in faded pencil, in handwriting that wasn't Carol's, older, masculine, pressed hard into the paper. Restitution. I opened it, and standing in that cold study, I understood finally and completely why Paul Merritt needed everything: the house, the lots, the signatures, the erasure of a 6-year-old girl, and why his mother had spent 30 years watching her son the way you watch weather. Because Paul had done this before.
The folder held 30-year-old paper, bank statements with a teenager's forgeries on them, a withdrawal slip, October 1994, $11,000 from Merritt Hardware's payroll account, signed Raymond Merritt, in handwriting that was almost his father's, a letter from the family's accountant flagging it, and a typed agreement, the saddest document I have ever held, in which Raymond Merritt, in exchange for not pressing charges against his own 19-year-old son, required Paul to sign a confession, attached, signed, dated, and repay the money at $50 a month. Stapled to the back, a payment ledger. It stopped after 4 entries. And one final page, Raymond's pressed hard pencil again, a note to no one, or maybe to exactly me 30 years early. He took from his own family's payroll while his mother was in the hospital. He will wait until people are weak. He will wait until people are weak.
a dying father's threat assessment, filed in a cedar drawer like ammunition, and accurate to the day. Because when had Paul scheduled all of this? For when his mother was elderly and isolated, for when his wife was deployed and exhausted, for a holiday, for chaos, for a freezing child and a drowning heart. When you are weak. I photographed every page twice. Then I drove 3 hours home through the dark with the original will and the folder in a locked case in my trunk, and I did not listen to music, and I did not cry, and somewhere around the county line I realized the thing that had been sitting quietly in my chest since the garage floor. I wasn't building a defense anymore. I was building a verdict. Saturday morning, Paul came home a day early, exactly as his mother predicted. I watched his headlights swing into the driveway from the kitchen window at 9:40 a.m. I had been ready since 7. Lily was at Reese's, nobody with the last name Merritt, and on the kitchen table, arranged with a nurse's neatness I'd learned from a woman in another story, were 3 items: his note, the FedEx refinance envelope, unsigned, and a fresh pot of coffee, 2 cups, because we're not animals. Paul walked in carrying an apology already assembled. I watched him choose his face on the doorstep. I've never told him that. And he got 4 words into "babe, before you say," before his eyes found the table and inventoried it and stopped on the unsigned envelope. "You didn't sign the bank papers." Not anger yet. Calibration. "Sit down, Paul." "Where's Lily?" "Somewhere warm." "Sit down." He sat. He wrapped both hands around the coffee cup I poured him. People take the cup. They always take the cup. Holding something feels like standing on something. And he began the speech. It was good. It was so good. The trip was a disaster of miscommunication. His mother was supposed to have arranged the sitter. The note was written in a rage after a fight with me on the phone that, here his voice did a small, skilled crack, he would regret for the rest of his life. The papers were routine. The deadline was the bank's, not his. Sunday, we'd all do Thanksgiving properly. The 4 of us. Family. "Family," I repeated. "Family," Paul said, and reached across the table for my hand. I let him hold it. I wanted him settled. I wanted him mid-smile. "Paul, before we talk about Sunday, I need to tell you how I spent my week. Wednesday night, I found my daughter asleep on the garage floor, 19 hours after your security system shows the garage door being locked from the inside, 2 minutes before the alarm was armed. Thursday, her pediatrician documented cold exposure. Friday morning, your bank courier arrived, and page 11 of your routine refinance waives my daughter's claim under your mother's will." His hand had gone still on mine. Friday afternoon, I drove to the lake house. The stillness spread up his arm, into his shoulders, into the careful architecture of his face. "The drawer sticks," I said. "You have to lift it as you pull." And I watched my husband understand, in real time, in his mother's coffee cup steam, that the executed will was gone from the cedar desk before his Saturday flight ever took off, that the entire machine, the trip, the note, the freezing child, the deadline, all of it, had been rendered pointless 72 hours before he walked in this door. "Whatever you think you found," he started. "I also found the folder, Paul." He stopped breathing. "I mean that, literally. I watched it." "Restitution," I said. "October 1994, $50 a month. You made 4 payments." And Paul Merritt, who had a face for every occasion, discovered in front of me that he did not have one for this, and in the silence where his next move should have been, the doorbell rang. Through the glass, on my porch, stood Carol Merritt in her traveling coat, home 3 days early, holding her purse in both hands, like a verdict of her own. I opened the door, and my mother-in-law and I looked at each other across 5 years of careful distance. "Is Lily warm?" she asked. Same first question, same scale, same soul. She's warm. Good. Carol stepped past me into her own house. I understood the titling now. She moved through that hallway like the owner she'd always been, and walked into the kitchen, and stood across the table from her son and set her purse down on his note, deliberately, covering it, the way you cover the dead. "Mom," Paul rose, recalibrating fast, warmth flooding back into his voice. "Thank God, maybe you can help me explain to Dana—" "Sit down, Paul." He sat. Second time that morning, it was becoming a theme. "I left Aspen the same hour you did. I've been on the phone with Grant Ellison since the airport, so let's not waste anyone's morning." She drew off her gloves, finger by finger, an executioner's small ceremony. "The will you flew home to find is with Grant, filed, witnessed, photographed, I'm told, in its drawer, by your wife, who documents things, a habit I'd suggest you learn to fear. The house we are standing in is mine, the lake house is mine, the shore lots are mine, and as of 11 days ago, upon my death, every bit of it belongs to a trust whose beneficiary is a 6-year-old girl you left on a concrete floor. Mom, whatever Dana told you, Dana told me nothing. Your security system told me. Your handwriting told me." Her voice never rose. That's the thing I keep returning to. 66 years old, hands not quite steady, and her voice never rose once. "I have spent 30 years, Paul, telling myself your father was too hard on you, that 1994 was a boy's mistake. I paid your debts quietly, I smoothed your messes quietly, and I watched you learn from every rescue exactly one lesson, that consequences are for other people." She stopped, and her chin trembled, and she mastered it. "Then I stood in a kitchen in Aspen and heard you tell my grandchildren, my actual blood grandchildren, that Lily wasn't real family, a 6-year-old, and I finally understood the truth your father wrote in pencil 30 years ago, and I refused to read." "You're going to believe a folder?" Paul said, very quietly, and the pleasant surface was gone now. All the way gone, and what was underneath was cold and flat, and I realized I was seeing my husband's actual face for the first time in 7 years. "You're going to torch your own son for a stepchild?" "No, for a child. The step was always your word." And then my mother-in-law did the thing I will tell Lily about when she's old enough, the thing that turned this from a rescue into a reckoning. She opened her purse, took out her phone, set it on the table, and pressed play. Paul's voice came out of it, tinny, resort bright from a kitchen in Aspen. "To relax, Mom. By Sunday, Dana signs. The kid's claim is dead. And honestly, after finding her precious daughter home alone all weekend, she'll sign anything I put in front of her. Weak people sign. It's the one thing you can count on." Weak people sign. "You recorded me. My own mother recorded me." "Your father taught me that, too. 1994. Chart everything." She looked at me across the table, and something passed between us. Recognition, I think. One documenting woman to another 30 years apart. "Your move, Dana. I believe you've prepared one." I had. "Here's what happens now," I said. "Today you leave this house, your mother's house, with a suitcase. Monday my attorney files, not just the divorce, Paul. Everything goes in the file. The security log, the pediatric record, your note, the 11-page waiver, and the recording, which is legal in this state, I checked Friday. Single-party consent. Your mother consented." I slid a card across the table, Grant's card, the twin of the one from the envelope. Child endangerment is what the family lawyer calls leverage, and what the district attorney calls a charge. Which of those it becomes depends entirely on the next thing you do. Contest nothing, sign nothing, stay away from my daughter forever, and it stays leverage. Fight me on a single line item.
You'd put Lily through a trial. You wouldn't. 19 hours. You have no idea what I would do." And Paul Merritt looked around the kitchen, at his mother standing on his note, at the unsigned envelope, and the 2 women he had scheduled for weakness, and he did the arithmetic of a man who had always survived on other people's mercy. He went upstairs and packed the suitcase. But this story doesn't end with him leaving. It ends 3 weeks later with an envelope of my own, and with what Lily said at Christmas that put the last piece where it belonged.
Paul signed everything. Men who wait for weakness fold fast in front of strength. His father had written the field manual on him 30 years earlier, and it held to the last page. Divorce, waivers, a permanent stay-away provision regarding Lily that his own attorney called unusually broad, and mine called non-negotiable. He contested nothing. The leverage stayed leverage. He tried once to work his mother. A letter, handwritten, 3 pages, every note of the old music. Carol read it at my kitchen table over tea, folded it, and said, "He apologizes beautifully. He always has. His father used to say Paul's apologies were the most expensive thing we owned." Then she asked me for a match, and we burned it in the sink, and she watched it curl with an expression I can only call medical. She didn't cut him off entirely, I want to be honest about that, because real endings are not clean. She pays for his apartment across the state, a mother's floor, she called it, not a mother's blank check, on the sole condition that he see and keep seeing a therapist whose reports go to nobody because they're for him or they're for nothing. Whether anything grows there is his ledger now. It stopped being ours the day he locked a door with a child behind it. The trust stands. Grant walked me through every page. Lily's education, Lily's start in life. Untouchable by anyone named Merritt or married to one, myself included, which I insisted on. "You'd be surprised how few parents insist on that," Grant said. "No," I said, "I wouldn't. I've read the folder." And Carol became something I don't have a clean word for. Not the grandmother of before, watchful and rationed. Something warmer and stranger, like a woman released. She comes Thursdays. She taught Lily to play gin rummy and loses with visible pride. In March, she sold the shore lots to that resort group, and half the proceeds went into the trust, and the other half, this made the local paper, built the new pediatric wing at the county hospital. There's a plaque. She chose the wording herself, and when you read it, you'll understand everything about Carol Merritt that took me 5 years to learn. For the children who waited quietly, may they never have to again. Which brings me to Christmas, and to Lily, and to the last piece. Christmas morning, my daughter is opening presents in the warmest living room in the county. I keep it at 74 now, all winter, and I will not be taking questions about the utility bill. And Carol hands her a small box, and inside is a locket, old gold, clearly a family piece. Lily turns it over. On the back, fresh engraving, LM. "That was my mother's," Carol says. "It goes to family." And Lily, 6 years old, rabbit under one arm, goes very still, the careful stillness I am slowly loving out of her, and she asks the question that has been living in her all along. "But Paul said I wasn't family." The room stopped, and I was still reaching for my grown-up words, my therapist-approved words, when Carol Merritt beat me to it. She knelt down, 66 years old, on a hardwood floor, on Christmas, and took my daughter's hands. "Paul was wrong," she said, "and here is how you'll always know, Lily. Family isn't who shares your name or your blood or your holidays. Family is who comes back for you. Your mama came home 2 days early because something in her knew to come. You are the girl people come back for. That is the realest kind of family there is. The girl people come back for." Lily wore the locket to bed for a month. So here's what I know now, and I'll keep it short because you've sat with me a long time and the coffee's gone cold. If someone in your life tells you who counts as family and who doesn't, watch their paperwork, not their mouth. Every "she's not really family" has a document behind it somewhere, a claim, a clause, a signature they need. Cruelty that arrives on a schedule isn't temper, it's strategy. Find the deadline and you'll find the reason.
And if you're ever the one standing in a cold garage holding a sleeping child and a monstrous note, hear me. Do not sign anything, do not scream, and do not believe for 1 second that you're as alone as they've arranged for you to feel. Feed the child, open the notebook, make the calls. The people who wait for you to be weak have one fatal blind spot. They cannot imagine what you look like when you're not. Show them. And check your envelopes. Sometimes the bravest person in a rotten family is a 6-year-old with a secret in her coat pocket and a grandmother who finally chose her side. If this story held you, stay close. There are more here about the people who came back. And tell me in the comments, because I read every one, who was the person who came back for you, and did you ever get to thank them?